Money Miners, 2nd of June, Friday. Long weekend again. How good are these bloody long weekends, Trav? Golf on Friday, Monday for me, mate. No show Monday.
Yep. It's a WA public holiday, which means the market could be open, but we're adhering to the WA public holidays.
I'm playing golf.
I think we take all the public holidays, the ones where it's Eastern States and West Australian. What do you reckon?
Yeah, 100%, and some American ones too, if I can.
So the ASX company should be wise not to put out anything meaningful on Monday because we won't be talking about it.
Though I have been known, when the industry needs it, I could deliver on Monday if needed, maybe from the 12th hole.
If you're called, yeah, if the occasion arises, yeah.
Well, and now possibly the fact that St Barbara have put out their no material improvement to Silver Lake proposal announcement, well, you're thinking Monday might be nothing to do with this unless Silver Lake come back. So now after this little snapshot of what St Barbara put out, we're going to go into Andromeda and
Kalium.
Kalium, mate. Another two I'd never bloody heard of till today.
Oh, it's the industrial minerals, mate. It's
you like that little space, don't you?
Like I said before, mate, it's a shame none of the projects work.
Yes, hence, that is a bit of an issue. So now, for everyone's that didn't get to listen to yesterday's episode, we did the big nickel deep dive, and I couldn't sleep last night. I was awake till 3 o'clock thinking about bloody nickel. I was off my head. I was so due to my insomnia, please go back and listen to the nickel episode.
Insomnia makes sense because like the live photo I took of you, which we used in the thumbnail, you can clearly see the insomnia written all over you.
I was prepped. Yeah, I had to suck on my vape at 3 o'clock to get me back to sleep. So, mate, okay. St Barbara put out their response to Silver Lake's response to all the other 100 responses that have been out there. They've said no material improvement to the Silver Lake proposal for Leonora. They continue to unanimously recommend St Barbara shareholders vote in favour of the Genesis deal. As second line, no material improvement. Third line, Silver Lake has not provided any reasonable or quantitative assumptions to assess a genuine Gwalia business case. So then fourth line, talking about due diligence. Now another one, this one's interesting. The final bold dot point here, St Barbara is not required by ASX to seek St Barbara shareholder approval for the sale of Leonora to Genesis, but in the interests of strong corporate governance, the St Barbara board is voluntarily seeking shareholder approval.
The stewards of excellent corporate governance, the St Barbara board.
Yeah, so I found that interesting. Trav, as a shareholder, you had the ability first to ring the Silver Lake hotline, but in this announcement, they have also put the St Barbara hotline on.
Yeah. I mean, we read the announcement and I got to the bottom and I'm like, hang on, there's usually only, like, you look at the bottom, they usually sign off investor relations, they sign off media relations. And this time they signed off with shareholder relations, and there's another 1300 number you can call if you're a shareholder of St Barbara, which I am.
Did Telstra work?
Telstra worked on this one. I rang quite a few times. I thought it was going to ring out, but it eventually got picked up, and it got picked up saying you've reached the St Barbara shareholder line.
Now, you're going to leave a Google review about this shareholder line, Trav?
It was a bit underwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did, like, you know when someone like answers the phone and then it's just like a bit of a jarring experience straight away. It's like, what is your name? Well, it wasn't like that, but it was like, yeah.
I think that's literally what it was.
What is your name? And I was like, oh, okay, it's Travis Ricardo, and I spell it out. So I don't know if he's verifying if I was a shareholder or not, which I am, Matty. But yeah. And then it was just, I asked some questions and I told him that I'm doing a podcast. I didn't even ask for consent. I just wanted to be honest with the context of my convo. And then I asked some questions about, why did the board not grant DD? And it just sort of felt like he wasn't quite equipped to know the answers to those sort of questions.
Well, I guess what was the purpose of having there? Was it similar to the Silver Lake one where they were saying read all the available information, or was it provided even less than that?
I don't know. Like sometimes these phone lines might just be the sort of person you call to be like, how do I vote? It might be, it might be that kind of purpose. But anyway, we thought we'd give both hotlines a go, mate. But we were pretty underwhelmed with this one. The Irish guy, Brendan, he was much more helpful.
Shout out to Brendan. Great job, mate. We like Brendan.
He
was blowing up on. He was blowing up on Twitter actually after our thing. There was had someone contact me and said, "Oh, I know Brendan." I told him he was blowing up on Twitter because we've tagged him in there. So
he followed our potty on LinkedIn. I noticed. Yeah,
mate, Brendan.
Yeah,
mate. Thanks for great chatting to you the other day. Have a good weekend, Brendan.
Yeah. If I ever want to do a 249D, I know who to call.
Yeah, mate. I'm coming over. I'm going to Carl. I'll meet you in Sydney for a Guinness or sometime, Brendan. I'll assume he's in Sydney, mate. Yeah. So I guess. Are we flogging a bit of a dead horse here? St Barbara have...
we are. Yeah, big time.
St Barbara have said no again.
What's a great analogy for this one, Matty, when you like keep having a whack and you just keep getting a no?
Oh, now I am the analogy...
You are?
The analogy man, aren't I? It's pretty similar to me trying to throw a 180 on the dartboard, I think. I just keep throwing darts. The best I can get is maybe 2. And then I'll just spray one out on the third one and just don't get the 180, but I'll just keep turning up to throw these darts.
Well, if Silver Lake is anything like you, mate, they're going to keep having a crack.
And then it comes to this point that they're, I guess, incrementally doing little bits of what you would say whether they're material improvement perceived as St Barbara haven't perceived this as a material improvement, but are they going to, up until that June 20th vote, are they going to just incrementally do a little bit extra to try and overturn that vote? It's just going to, because what do we got? We've got 18 days until that vote. That is a lot of time.
Yeah.
Whatever that works out, 13, 14 market days until that point. So very interesting to see what they've got coming out next, because they're definitely just going to, they're not going to just, there is no clear point. You can see them stopping this attempt to engage anytime soon, I don't think.
Yeah. It becomes a lot harder, right? Like that's the tricky thing. The couple of points that sort of stood out to me in this announcement that were new were St Barbara explicitly mentioning the ability of Oz Super and RCF to withdraw. So they're basically making the point that if they engage in a due diligence process with St Barbara, then that might be deemed as a breach, and whether or not Genesis terminate or not, they say that there's a risk that Oz Super and RCF can withdraw their subscription agreements with Genesis.
So how's that work, Trav? So are you saying that RCF and Oz Super can make Genesis terminate without Genesis agreeing to terminate?
They can't make Genesis terminate, but because their funding that it's a conditional placement, right? So there's conditions associated with that money, and one of those conditions, is of course the deal going ahead and all that sort of stuff, and maybe those conditions tie into like certain parameters around the deal, and one of them might be the no shop, no talk.
Yeah.
So it's a stretch to make, but it gives you a bit of an indication of who like where is the pressure really coming from. And I think like St Barb's are probably they're probably thinking, there's this risk that it all falls over because the equity is not, is conditional on things going a certain way, and Genesis have the right to walk. I don't know if they're just not being able to call the bluff or not, but and regardless, there is a risk. But yeah, like in my mind, I sort of think Genesis really need this a hell of a lot too. So I'd really be kind of underplaying the extent to which I really think Genesis would walk. So,
but do you think? I think this, and now to be honest, I've lost track of all the bloody announcements because there's been that many. But it seemed there was some new styling, new wording, new style of their message in this announcement, like really, really honing in, not supported by a genuine Gwalia business case. Like just the way they worded that was a bit different to how they've done it previously. It was very specific, and saying that I think down the bottom where they said, if Genesis walk, it then exposes them to the debt covenant thing and possibly a highly dilutive equity raise for this debt issue, or negotiating another sale process from a very weak negotiating position. So I'm not sure if they sort of worded that, which is exactly what our commentary was the other day, that if it did get to that stage, they would be in that very weak position, and without that binding offer in place, the deal could really go south for St Barbara. So I think they've plagiarised us in a way. But, that was a couple of things that stood out for me. So we'll wait to see to next week, Trav. What's going to come from Silver Lake next?
Well, with my very significant $500 parcel of St Barbara shares, I'm a bit disappointed, Matty. I was hoping for a different outcome on this one, but we'll have to live to fight another day.
So where's your vote sitting right now, Trav, as we speak?
It all depends.
If you
on
had
the
to
next
vote
2
right
weeks.
now.
I don't have to vote right now. I get to wait until 2 weeks. And I think that's the important thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get on to your other little passion in life, other than being a St Barbara shareholder.
Industrial
minerals.
Oh, Matty, it's a Friday when what a Friday when we're talking about one company that everyone had heard of at one point in time, but now everyone has gladly forgotten about, and another company no one has heard of. But they're interesting. I think we should. They're worth talking about. So the
new audience, Trav. Opening up to another hot copper for them.
I don't even think anyone's following these stocks anymore. Like the retail crowd was there, trust me, but they've been burned that much that they've left. So no one's still following these hot copper threads, mate. But it was interesting, right? So Andromeda, they dropped an announcement late yesterday. Andromeda, they're a purported developer of kaolin, but it's special kaolin, mate. It's haliosite kaolin, the good stuff.
This is not the bloody healthy green shit. What's kaolin?
It's like a clay thing. You use it in construction stuff mostly. But Andromeda, they gained a lot of fanfare in 2021, and their share price skyrocketed. They literally had at one point $1 billion market cap, I think. And they've got this kaolin project in South Australia. Mate, there's a lot of kaolin going around, and but what Andromeda did is they basically had marketing that sort of said they're also creating a market for their special kaolin, and these were some carbon capture stuff, some nanotech things, a whole array of very advanced. They were basically persuading the market that they had the special kaolin, and also that they had use cases for this special kaolin. They were working on the market side of it as well. But in the intervening time, their share price has come off 90%. They've basically come out late yesterday with an announcement that one of their binding offtakes has been cancelled. And so they've also got a company update happening today, which I think is occurring right now as we're recording this podcast. It's like just a webcast. It's interesting, right? Like I could never quite, when it had such a large market cap, and it was one of those projects where they had a DFS and a PFS, and the DFS got updated and then updated again. And I could never quite work out why when they had like such a high market cap, that they didn't just equity fund things, issue a bit of equity and then fund that low capex project. So it's just but when you look at it now, it's 2023. I think back in the day they were saying they were going to be mining in early 2022. Hasn't happened. But it just reminds me that there's I remember when I first started banking someone, one of the old hands in the broking firm that I was working at, said there's no winners in kaolin. And that's just stuck with me. So some people have been around the block a few times, are a bit pessimistic about this commodity, but
mate, I can even put a rugby league connection there, mate. One of the highest paid players for the Newcastle Knights, Kalen Ponga. He's been getting knocked out all year, so even that Kalen's struggling, mate. So no good luck with Kalen.
It's a tricky one. Mate. There's like a derivative of this kaolin that, or some way that you can make high purity alumina out of kaolin these days if you refine it properly or something. But it's the jury is very much still out on the ability to kind of have good economics from this. There's not too many good stories to talk about with Kalen. But
there you go.
I will reserve myself from being too much of a negative Nancy on that one, and I'll move on to my second love, Matty, which is
Let me guess.
potash.
Potash. I knew it was going to be potash. You love potash as much as I love nickel at the moment. Oh, bloody really into nickel at the moment.
You are, mate. The thing is, though, people are actually producing commercial quantities of nickel, but potash not so much.
Yeah. So what's the goss on potash, mate?
Oh, mate. Today I noticed Kalium Lakes, they entered a trading halt pending an announcement of an operational update at their Beyondie SOP mine in Western Australia. So like this is a project that had the way that they're producing potash is via solar evaporation, and they've got salt lake. So, the whole solar evaporation brine process to create, SOP potash. Ever since the project started, there've been a whole bunch of, commissioning challenges for Kalium. When they first came to market, they were basically indicating that that they were going to have a production target of 90,000 tonnes per annum of SOP production in phase one, growing up to 180,000 tonnes per annum. In the March quarter just gone, what they produced in that 3-month period was 1.7 thousand tonnes, which if you annualize that, that's 7,000 tonnes per annum. Yeah. And yet they still stated in that quarterly that that they're looking to reach 60,000 tonne per annum run rate by July 2023, which is, that date's been pushed back a few times. So let's just, I think it's important to just take a quick look at the cash flow when we look at sort of how distressed the company is at this point in time. So they at the end of the March quarter, their cash flow from operations, so the money they're making from their operations, is negative $12 million. So just to keep the plant going and producing that low quantity, they lost $12 million. They're pretty lucky that their lenders have been friendly to them, and they're not charging them interest expense on the $200 million of debt that they have outstanding in calendar year 2023. If they were, things would be a bit more dire at the moment. So they've got $11 million cash at the bank, plus there's that $200 million of debt to repay, and an operation that doesn't have a history of making money, and there are big question marks on its ability to do so in the future. You look at the lenders there of that $200 million facility. You've got NAIF, KfW, Euler Hermes. Why are the lenders being so friendly and lenient with the repayment terms? It's because they're a bit scared that I think it's because they would be worried that if it went into an administration process, they'd get cents on the dollar back themselves. So there's it's like in that dynamic when you're worried about not being able to recoup your debt in an administration process, it's just easier to kick the can down the road and hope you can sort of plug the cash flow problems with a bit more equity here and there, and then hope that the technical challenges resolve themselves during ramp up. But yeah, I'm again not super optimistic about that, given the enormous amount of challenges you've seen between Kalium and SO4 when it was in the public domain as well.
Trav, who does potash well in the industry? Is there any standouts?
Yeah.
Who are they for the punters out there, including myself?
Well, keep in mind there's different ways you can produce potash. So there's MOP, which is the muriate of potash. That's typically mined. So it's just you can think of your conventional mining methods, right?
It's a hard rock.
Yeah. I think the big ones are Uralkali in Belarus that are they produce a huge quantity of potash out of there. And then if you go into the SOP variant, then there are two primary ways that you make that. One is through the solar evaporation method, which you haven't had any luck with in WA to date. There's still developers that say that they can figure it out, and I hope they can. But Kalium and SO4 have had a lot of trouble doing it in WA.
What's SOP stand for, Trav?
sulfate of potash.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a variant of potash. But then there are some people that do it, okay-ish overseas. I think you've got like SQM do a bit of it. There's some other players, but and then another way that you make SOP is through this Mannheim process. It's quite costly, uses a lot of heat energy, and all that happens in China.
That's it, mate. That is sensational. That's mate. Don't think you've wasted the listeners' time talking about these struggling stocks, mate. Because there's nothing like a good potash overview, mate. Thank you very much for that from the listeners and myself.
I considered doing a deeper dive on the Matty, but I wanted to keep it a bit more surface level because I'm sick of being a negative Nancy, and I didn't want to have too much of a rant because I think I look at both of these companies and I think there's a bit of a theme in the market right now. And that theme is throughout 2020 and 2021, it felt like there's been a lot of misallocated capital. And in 2023, it feels like a lot of that's getting flushed out. And I think that's what we're kind of seeing in some of these names.
So what is Travis Ricciardo's definition of positive mining news, I guess, and what stock could you attribute to what you would consider positive? So like the Capricorn story, for instance, is that sort of stuff? It's like, right.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see.
Yeah, 100%. So I think positive mining news to me is under promising and over delivering consistently. It's basically like, I think a lot of what you see, well, at least in the more recent period of history, was over-promising and under-delivering, and developers are in some ways incentivized to do that because they need to over-promise in order to get financed in the first place. So if you can juice things a little bit here and there, it helps you at the margins actually get the equity and the debt in order to build the mine. But if you over-promise before it's built, and then when it does get built, you under-deliver, it's a horrible situation for shareholders in the market, and it's a bloody long way to come back from. So I much prefer the pathway of being pretty measured, disciplined, under-promising, and then surprising the market to the upside.
Mate, I reckon we give a bit of a preview of a possible upcoming segment we're going to have on Money of Mine. Now, Trav's top tweets, sensational success. Well done, Trav, creating that segment.
Thank you, mate.
Bloody loved it. The punters loved it. But we've got another one coming. We're just seeking a bit of legal advice on this.
On how we do it. Because
she's a bit, it's not like it's a unique thing, but I'm sure the people that do it have lawyered up to the shit. It's going to be called Word on the Decline.
Word on the Decline. Is this a bit of a spin-off from Heard on the Terrace?
Yes.
But it's the Matt Michael version of it.
And the origin of that term is like if you've got a rumour or something going underground, it's like, look, Word on the Decline is that.
Do you say this on a mine site?
Yep, it is an underground term. Yeah. Mate, Word on the Decline is that we're all getting a pay cut or something like that.
And it's a Word on the Decline.
And usually it comes from people like myself that get so bored boring holes down there, so I try to start rumours and try and get them circulating around.
You want a bit of drama, yeah.
I got one going a while back. Said I went to state for dancing when I was in school, and I was on the reserves for the Pink Tour.
Yeah, there you go, mate.
That got around for a bit, so then I started doing dancing demos at the pub and everything. So that was one example of Word on the Decline.
I like it. But is the Decline actually a place you would meet to have a chat though, or are you just sort of in motion?
No, it just represents the underground, really.
Gotcha.
Yeah, some people walk out. Yeah, no, you don't want to because you. Got bloody trucks driving past.
Yeah, I was thinking. Surely you don't bloody just have a chat on the decline.
You don't want to be standing on the D. Do not stand on decline, miners. Now, but this won't be fake rumours like I used to make up underground. Word on the Decline is going to be about, if we can get the legal approval, is what is the hot goss or the sourced speculation or sourced things going on behind the scenes. That hasn't been really made public yet, but it is, from credible sources in a way. So presenting about what could be in the mix, could be in the pipeline.
Yeah. I
So
that.
like an example, or an example could be these two companies are rumoured to be taking over or merging. There's some M&A activity possibly coming up between these two companies, which is not me speculating, but I reckon it's probably sourced from credible people.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, I like it, Matty.
Look forward to it. Once a week, I reckon there's going to be a word on the decline.
I like it.
And but that's the thing. People are going to start feeding me bullshit rooms to see if they can get it on air. So I'm going to check my. I'm going to have to get a minimum amount of sources, I think, to be credible.
Yeah.
So look, I can't wait.
I'm excited.
That is what I started this with you for, Trav.
I'm nervous about influencing markets, but I think we can do it in a way where it's going to be bloody fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And if it's going to be that influential, we might just have to omit some certain company names or something. But people can infer from what is known. Mate.
I've got another segment, mate.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Mate.
This is a surprise.
I thought this segment was going to be built in to your love for potash and kale. And I was going to say Carl. Right, Trav's on the blower here.
Hello.
G'day, Keane. How are you?
Mate, I'm pretty good.
Oh, beautiful. I've sprung this one as a bit of a surprise on Matty, but we've got you dialed in, mate.
Is this anonymous or not?
Nah. Keane would want his name on it. He loves putting himself out there.
Keane, how are you, Cobber? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, g'day, mate. How are you?
Good, mate. Good. Who are we talking to here, Trav, for the listeners?
Keane, well, I'm going to prohibit him from plugging his bloody small cap because we don't want to do any promo stuff, Matty, but he is an MD of a mining junior. But the reason I'm calling him is because he was a mining analyst for 10 years. So he's across the space. He follows it like a hawk, and he's got some good insight on what's happening, just from a themes perspective in the mining industry.
Mate, Keane, I'm starting a new segment soon called Word on the Decline, rumours and goss going around. But since you're on, mate, you can deal with the litigation yourself. What is the rumour on the word on the decline at the moment? What's the hot goss?
That almost sounds a bit negative. Should be word on the incline. Hopefully things were coming out of the decline.
That's it, mate.
No, look, it's a really interesting space at the moment. So I'll talk to the gold sector where I'm in without sort of plugging Great Southern, obviously working for.
He slipped it in there.
Is that, yeah. Oh, Great Southern. What stock code's that, Keane, since you've made the time?
GSM, but you'll only hear that another GSM, 4 times in this
just
conversation.
in case anyone missed it, yep.
No, look, it's a bit of obviously there's a lot of action happening at the mid cap range. You guys have been all over that with what's happening with obviously Genesis and St Barbara and Silver Lake. That's really interesting. But there's probably a few other little sort of deals happening, or maybe bigger deals happening around that sort of sector as well, which has sort of implications for the way things go. But my read on the sector at the moment is, you've got a lot of these mid caps, and sort of talking about the Northern Stars Evolutions down to your sort of your Regises and your Silver Lakes and those guys, who are they've got these mills, a lot of installed capacity, and as per your interview a couple of weeks ago with Sam Burris, you point out very rightly that it's really expensive to build a mill at the moment. So these mills are hungry. A lot of them haven't had great brownfield success in finding replacement ounces. So my read is the next sort of wave of M&A that's going to happen in the sector could be actually at the smaller end, and maybe smaller guys consolidating, or some of these mid cap guys just looking to pick up whatever ounces they can in their neighbourhood. Given that there's probably less under the head for them at the moment.
Yeah,
so,
and on a relative valuation perspective, the guys that are producing cash are benefiting from the higher gold price environment, but the ounces in the ground that are undeveloped, they seem to be, there's a bit of divergence in valuations on those guys at the moment. So just from an M&A perspective, it looks more attractive on a relative basis than it has in the past, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those times when it's cheaper to acquire ounces than it is to go out there and drill for them. So, a previous employer of both of ours there, Trav, one thing he always used to say is that, it'll be M&A will show the value of this sector rather than the equity markets.
Yeah, Keane, with the mill capacity around, and I guess people don't, appreciate the age of mills and how that comes into it. Everyone's like, there's a mill here, there's a mill here, there's a mill there. Can you give a bit of insight from the ground floor about how the age of these mills, how old they are, impacts the refurb costs, or is that a big factor to consider when looking at these mills around the districts?
Yeah, I think it is. It's probably two parts that it's, if it's an existing mill that's operating, generally they're pretty well maintained. You're putting that capital in each year, but it's when things go on care and maintenance that, the technology doesn't get updated, things start to rust, pumps sort of become a little bit frozen up. So that's when, your CapEx bill starts to sort of escalate. And, I'm sure you can advocate this, but whenever someone states a restart, it's always pretty cheap on the first cut. But by the time we get to, say, a PFS or a DFS for a restart, all of a sudden the redevelopment CapEx, particularly related to the plant, really blows out. But I think the other side to this is not only sort of the CapEx to sort of maintain these things, but, guys now looking for, ounces outside their current mining leases, new ounces. There's also a compatibility factor. Is it the right ore that can actually go through smoothly through your mill? Is it going to blend properly? Do you have to batch it? There's all those sort of considerations as well. Do you need to refurb and sort of, maybe add another circuit, say Nelson Mill or something like that, to actually process the ore from the neighbour?
Katie, what are the key mills in WA that are underutilised at the moment and have a bit of latent capacity?
God, there's a lot to list here. In my jurisdiction, where we're operating, without sort of plugging that name again, Granny Smith's, anecdotally, that's less than 50% fed. They don't seem to be wanting to toll.
Yeah.
Regis Resources, the last couple of quarterlies, those guys, I think quarter four last are about 80% feed throughput.
Yeah.
I think there's a number who are actually like that. And a lot of transitions, Regis is interesting because, doing a good job, but they're going from those big stable open pits to now sort of satellite smaller deposits and underground mines, which is a change of feed and a big change in the amount of tonnage you can actually get out of the ground and put through your mills.
And in a funny, you just look at the amount of, nearly it's close to 6 million tonne, or about 5.5 just sitting in spare capacity with Mount Morgans and Gascoyne at the moment due to how all that unfolded. With the toll trading, Keane, you're talking about batching, you're talking about blending. How does that all, like if they're forced to batch someone else's dirt, and if you're going down that process in compared to blending it, is it a lot easier to batch it than blending it so they know the grade of what they're paying the toll treater, or how does that all work? What's easiest, what's hardest?
Look, I'm going to be frank here. I'm probably not the right guy to ask that question to, but, sometimes from an accounting point of view, it certainly is easy to batch, and also to get a good reconciliation on the actual ore that you're taking into your mill is what the person proclaimed they were sending you. So, but look, it's horses for courses. I think sometimes you got some pretty similar dirt like for like, and it'll plough through. I think Paddington, for example, pretty sure that's Zijin still. It's one of those plants which you can take all sorts of ore. So whether they batch or whether they just pile it all through, probably less of a concern. But again, I'm not the expert in that field.
But is one of the biggest things in terms of dirt not being right for another mill is when they're, for instance, introducing impurities or deleterious elements that the other mine doesn't have. Is I guess, what are your main drivers of making dirt not suitable for another mill?
There's a number of factors here. Sort of talking all different specifications, but rock hardness is a big one. Your workability index and so forth. Mount Morgans is a great example. The very, very different sort of ore feed there. Very hard ore, and originally it was going through the mill, but you might, if you can find a soft ton elsewhere, might make sense to like a bit of oxide. Might make perfect sense to blend that in with the ore or help your throughput, for example.
Yeah.
Can you, to the M&A theme of majors acquiring, the undeveloped ounces, like who has more leverage in that kind of negotiation? Because the juniors can't get access to funding at the moment because equity markets are so damn tough, and the corporates need the ounces. So, both hands are pretty tight and both need each other. So I guess, are you really going to see crazy premiums in that space, or are they just going to be, pretty rational premiums?
Yeah, it's a pretty good question, Trav. And I'd love to say that the power is going to be with the junior guys, because there's desperation that they need the ounces to get these mills and also to build out reasonable mine lives 5 to 7 years ahead of where they are now. But the reality is the junior space, particularly gold, is so beaten up. For example, if you've got a company without sort of a strong register, what I mean by that is some good cornerstones or supportive, you might find a register that's willing to capitulate for 100% premium, which off a low base isn't really a high valuation or a good return. But then you've got other companies where you've got, say, a good register and a few guys really backing the stock. Talking about the top, say, 10 holding more than 50%, and you might have a bit more control. That's at an acquisition level, but just at a tolling level, interesting. I think it'll come down to just how desperate that mill is for tons, and where the cash balance of the junior sits at, which as you can sort of read across a number of different platforms today, the junior sector cash balance collectively is falling down at a pretty steep rate.
It's pretty dire, and you're seeing all these pretty dilutive entitlement offers to keep the lights on in a lot of cases.
Yeah, correct.
And Keane, what do you reckon is going to be the big catalyst to see a turnaround in that junior space? When are we going to see, feel that things are getting better? Because any junior at the moment, even a junior with a mining story, is just getting hammered because no one's really making that much money actually mining. So what's going to be the big turnaround, do you think?
I reckon there's a couple of triggers could really spawn it on. Gold price is strong. We know that, $3,000 an ounce Aussie is strong for gold sector. And as you said, the mid caps and majors are making really good profits. Well, costs have come up, but they're still pretty good margins. But I think, from a top down perspective, you obviously got the Newcrest Newmont deal, which is, flow out. And there's, that's just under 30 billion, which a lot of that's probably going to be reallocated. And you'd expect, in my view, that, the likes of your Northern Stars and Evolutions, they'll be a beneficiary of some of those funds which get come out of Newcrest. They'll probably get full, and then that money then trickles down the sector into developers and your explorers. And from a bottom up sort of perspective, as we've seen in the past, it just takes, one or two good discoveries or a couple of really good development stories, and then, the market sort of jumps in on everything. What's next? I've missed this one. I've got to get on the next boat. So I think it could be either or both of those as key catalysts.
And what do you think about regions to look out for M&A? So I guess you're obviously looking at the battle for Leonora at the moment. Then Leonora obviously extends towards, the Mount Morgan side heading to Laverton, but then Menzies heading towards Orabanda. So you got that area, and then you got up the Gascoyne, Musgrave, Westgold area. Where do you think are the hot spots to look out for more M&A to keep us busy on the news?
Mate, I reckon you've just listed the major regions. I'd definitely say through that Musgrave region, through the Murchison region there, there's again a number of hungry mills and a lot of mines which are getting pretty deep and also pretty hard in terms of the ore feed. Very much you're seeing what's happening here in the Leonora region, but Laverton's also, there's a number of guys, both with mills or without mills, really bidding to try and sort of get a reasonable resource base behind them. So I think they're going to be the hotspots. Kalgoorlie is always sort of there's a lot of mills around there, so you can't write off M&A around that area as well. I think sort of timing wise, it'll probably be a bit of a dust settling after these bigger deals play out.
Because what are they charging or calculating at the moment for trucking? I know because of the diesel prices over the last couple of years, it all went up. I think they used to work on 10 cents per TKM. Now it sort of went up to 20. But that was a bit of word on the decline. How's the diesel price looking for haulage of ore? Because there's bloody trucks going everywhere. And as I've said previously, you wouldn't want to be a kangaroo around Leonora soon. So,
no, that's right. I like that. Look, in terms of an all-in cost, it depends how many times you pick up and drop the dirt off. But I think you're probably fair. I work on in my calculations, if I'm trying to say, what's my oil worth to that mill or that mill, I generally work on about 15 cents per tonne per kilometre.
Yeah, so then, okay, I suppose it's good for punters out there. If you're looking at the cost of trucking, you can use that 15 cents times the tonnes times kilometres to figure out what the cost is for that compared to actually building a whole new bloody mill. So,
Keane, I thought we'd dial you in today because we talked about a company that is part of the reason I'm such a cynic when it comes to a lot of the space.
It wasn't GSM. You're all good, Keane.
Mate, do you remember in my first year banking, there was a bit of a hole in the research team at Argonaut because, Keane was leaving, there were a bunch of people leaving, and they had to put out this annual publication called BUPS, and BUPS is the best undeveloped projects. So, Keane is the sort of, the last tenured sort of mining analyst left standing there at that point in time. Johnny McDonald had just come on board, so he was coming in, but just, getting his feet in and getting back acquainted with all the gold stocks that he loves. And Keane was walking out the door, but writing this annual book of all of the best undeveloped projects as we go. And he chooses a list, Keane does, and he bloody puts a few absolute dogs in there. And I get seconded from the corporate finance team to the research team to just help him out and write this thing. I won't mention all of the dogs, but one of their companies he's bloody picked for me was ADN, which I talked about at the top of the show today, who've come out with the removed binding offtake.
It wasn't talked about favourably, Keane. He just like warning you.
So I actually, can you go back yourself? I missed the stock. Which one was it?
Andromeda.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So, geez, Trav, you've asked him on and you've actually shit-canned him.
I'm this naive,
You're an arsehole.
naive graduate, thinking that every all the numbers in every DFS and PFS are real numbers. But, yeah, they're not, as I've since learned, and that's why I'm very much a cynic.
Geez, how do you take that?
No, look, it certainly there were some absolute cracking winners in that best undeveloped publication over the years.
Yeah, not that year.
No, that's right. But challenge, yeah. Look, I'd actually be honest. I think a lot of the industrial sort of stocks that went into that book over the years are the most challenging, and that's probably where that one falls.
Yeah. If
you're sort of, the success in terms of industrial stocks is probably the lithium plays, but we all know how that went.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, very challenging. It's one of those companies where they're sort of charting new ground in a way. The whole sort of kaolinite, and that one's obviously halloysite, which is a bit of a morph of kaolinite. It's just a hard market and very hard for the average analyst or equity investor to sort of understand it. To be fair,
yeah, that's why you handball it to the graduate to bloody
absolutely. Yeah, always keep going to the graduate. Yeah. Did I write your name on the top of the research note? I hope I did.
No, I was very careful not to do that one.
Right, Keane, what 30 seconds or less? Why should everyone buy GSM?
Oh, we'll cut this bit out.
No, you got to pay for my time. But no, look, we're in a great position. We've got enough cash in the bank to sort of get us through this, what is a bit of a down cycle. But, we've got drilling targets across all our projects, which are permitted, ready to go. We're in a position where we're going to start developing resources. All of our projects are within 40 kilometres of existing and hungry mills. Really strong geological team. We're on the ground now active. So, hopefully we've got some news flow coming out over the next couple of weeks. And, I think very well positioned. I think there's probably just at this time you just got to pick your projects, pick your teams, and they're going to be the companies that you'll probably shine through when this sort of dust settles and the M&A cycle finishes and the gold price sort of lends itself to investing back in the juniors. And hopefully we're one of the ones that springs to mind of people, with what we've got going, which is a fair bit happening over the next 24 months.
Geez, you MDs can just flick a switch and just turn it on. Hey, like you just go straight into that mode.
Marketing mode.
And my brain just switches straight off because I'm like, here's my bullshit detector. Ring, ring, ring.
Oh, mate.
Mate, there's a school we attend.
Hey, Keane, mate, thanks for making an appearance, mate. Surprise appearance. You've made my day.
Yeah.
Nothing like having another good hard Aussie accent on the bloody podcast, mate. I love it.
Any word on the decline,
Compliment each
Keane? You
other.
got any rumours to spill? That's what we're keen for. We want the goss.
Look, I think you've got to be careful in my role about what you say. But look, one thing I will allude to, there's plenty more M&A in the sector, so sort of watch this space.
Yeah.
These things happen when they happen. They don't always unfold despite people talking for years on end. But I think there might be a few surprises out there for the average punter.
Roger that, Keane, mate. You have a bloody sensational weekend, Cobber.
Very good, and you guys do enjoy the long weekend. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Trav.
Cheers,
No
mate.
worries. Beautiful, Keane. What a bloody gentleman, mate.
Yep.
I'm like, I love seeing the 30 second bloody.
Yeah, we're never asking that question again.
No, I do because I know how much it pisses you
I
off.
hate it. I hate it.
Righto, recap. Bugger all. MinRes takeover of Norwest has completed. So they've got 100% of the shares there now.
Yeah.
Not much else going on. Lightning Minerals, they got a 12,500 metre program down at the Dundas. Lithium area. So, Biggsy's getting drilling. So, on the old Fortescue tenements. So, geez, might be late to the party for the old lithium there.
And I saw Charles Liu buying Hastings shares on market today.
Who's Charles Liu?
He's an executive chair there. But yeah, anyway, it's good sign. They came out with their new strategy the other day. So
Yep, very good. Righto, Trav, mate. Money miners, have a bloody great weekend. Go back and listen to my nickel thing. It's my proudest moment on Money of Mine, I think. And I don't think I got much wrong.
Right on,
for a
mate.
change. Right, hootaroo.
Information
Money miners.
contained in this episode of Money of Mine is of general nature only and does not take into account the objectives, financial situation or needs of any particular person. Before making any investment decision, you should consult with your financial advisor and consider how appropriate the advice is to your objectives, financial situation and needs.